G'day guys, just want to look at some correlations. I think that's our last topic we need to do. Just want to go through the sort of things that you'll be looking to do. So obviously correlation is looking at a connection between two different values. So it might be a connection between, say, your arm span and maybe your height. And if you know that connection, you should be, if you put your hands out wide, you should be basically the same height as your wingspan. All right, so that's what the sort of thing that we look at. I know forensic scientists use the concept of, body proportions to actually work out, who might have done it. So if they look at a footprint, they can pretty well tell by how deep the footprint is, how tall the person might be, and so on. So if they maybe just find a particular bone, let's say a thigh bone, well, they could work out how tall someone was just from their thigh bone, looking at the ratio of the height versus thigh bone for most people in the population. All right, so there's a couple simple examples of where we might be looking at there. And obviously when you go through the questions in the textbook, then you'll find that there are a number of questions that relate to that for you. Now, there's two types of correlations that we'll be looking at, and that's a positive correlation. And generally what we're looking at there is the slope of the line going upwards. So you can see it's actually growing there. Right, so you can have a strong correlation. That means that all the points are going to be very close to the line of best fit. You've got a moderate, so you've got the points varying a little bit more, and then you've got a weak correlation where you're looking at the points being scattered quite a lot. Now obviously if the points are scattered immensely, then you've probably got no correlation that we'd be looking at there. So similarly, if we look at the negative relationship, the difference there is that one's going up, this one's going down. So we call this a negative correlation, a negative relationship. Right? So it could be a strong negative correlation, a moderate negative correlation, or a weak negative correlation. All right, so keep that in mind. It's pretty straightforward. Now here's a formula called Pearce's correlation coefficient. It's called the R value, and that's a formula. Now don't get too frightened about that. All that little symbol there means is the sum of. And the good thing for you is you don't actually need to know how to do that by hand. Alright, so all we will need to know how to do is put this information into our calculator and press the button and read off the value of R for that. So that's the good news. It's pretty easy to do. Now we'll certainly have this table on our cheat sheet when we start looking at things. So obviously if you ask squared value, and this is the other value that we look for correlations, is basically looking at the R squared value. We're looking at the it being between certain values. So obviously looking at here a very weak correlation that's less than 0.25, up to the idea if we've got a correlation of 1, then we know it's a perfect correlation. But even if it's between, say, 0.9 and 1, we'd say that correlation is very strong. So therefore there's a very strong connection between two variables that we'd be looking at there. Alright, so that's pretty well the theory that you need to know for this whole topic. Let's look at an example of what you have to possibly do. Right, so looking at this first one, this is question 2 out of your textbook. So in investigation, we examine the association between tread depth, and that's called Y, right, and the number of kilometres travelled X thousands of kilometres. A sample of 8 tyres of the same brand were taken and results were given. Right, so what we want to see is there a correlation between the number of Ks that you travel and the tread depth that you might have in your tyres. So it says draw a scatter plot of the data. So what I would do is I'd start by putting this information into my calculator to do this, and we still have to draw a part of this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So to put this information into our calculator, all we do is we go into our calculator, we press our stat button, and we go into edit. Now, one of our early examples is still in our calculator here. I've got that in list number 1 and 2. Now remember, if I wanted to clear that list, I just go press clear, and that will get rid of everything. But I've decided, because we've got more lists than 1 and 2, we'll put it into list 3 and 4. Alright, so I'm going to put from that table, I'm going to put these values here into list number 1, and I'm going to put these values into list number 2. Now, one of the key things you have to keep in mind is what is the dependent variable that we're looking at here. So what we're looking at here is trying to look at the tread depth versus the kilometres travelled. Alright, so what we're measuring is we're measuring the tread depth. So this is going to be our x value because we're setting the number of k's you're doing, and then we're measuring the tread depth, which is our y value. So traditionally the independent variable, the one that you set, goes along the x-axis. The dependent variable, the one that you measure, goes along the y-axis. Alright, so keep that in mind when you're doing things. Alright, so all we're going to do is we're going to type those values in, and I've done that for you. So I just, it saves time. Alright, so we've got our values in there. Now the next thing that we want to do is we're going to go to stat plot, and we'll go turn that on. Alright, so we've already got some data in there from before. So now we're going to do a scatter graph. So we're going to come down to this graph here. Alright, and instead of using list number 1 and 3, we're going to use list number 3, and we're going to use list number 4. So we're pressing the second function 4. Alright, and then we're going to quit out of there. Alright, and then what we're going to do is we're going to plot it. So we go zoom and zoom number 9. Alright, and then that will plot our data for us. Alright, so you can see it's a negative correlation. Right, so, and I'm not quite sure if it's strong or weak or anything like that yet, so that's what I would like to determine what's going on. Now, while I'm here with the calculator, let's just go through some things that you'll need to know how to do, and I'll give you an instruction sheet so you can follow this step by step. So once I've got my correlation there, so what I can do is I know I'm looking for a linear relationship. So if you're looking at pressing the stat button, going across to calculate, we want to go down to number 4 because that's a linear line, and now we need to set our x list, so that's going to be list 3. Alright, we're going to do our other value, which is list 4. Alright, then we're also going to store this. Now if I press store, I can store this into a function, and we're going to store that into function y1, enter. Alright, and then we come down to calculate. It actually tells us all our values. So it tells us what our correlation value is. Right? It tells us our Pearson value as well. So it's got a correlation of negative 0.95, but we've also got a correlation value of 0.90. So remember, that is a very strong correlation. So just squeezes in that region. So it's a very strong negative correlation that we've got there. Alright, so now if I now press graph, because what's happened here is that function's now been stored into my y1, and when I press graph, it actually draws my line of best fit for me. Alright, so it's worthwhile doing that prior to doing anything else. Alright, so that's what you want to do. You have an idea about what it's going to do. Now if I press my window, I also get a bit of an idea about my scale there. So I know my x goes to 40 odd, and I know that one goes up to about 8. Alright, so I can start from there. So when I come over to do my manual sketch, I can basically come up with an axis here. Alright, so I won't do all of the graph because I know it's going to take some time, but in terms of showing you how to set this up. So first of all, you want to start by drawing an axis. Okay, so that's really important that you draw your axes up. Now I would suggest that you put them right next to those things there. Right, so I'm doing my axes. Now you've got to think of a suitable scale. Right, so remembering my other one has to go to about 40. Right, so I have to think about all the numbers that I am going to put there, and this one going up there is going to about 8. Alright, so just count the number of squares. So it's 2, 4, 6. Okay, I reckon we can probably go in ones here. Alright, so you don't have to label every point, so I'm going to use every 2 squares is equal to 1. And I reckon we'll get that along here. Yeah, make sure I mark them all. So I might just go 2, 4, 6, 8. Now it's important you label your scale, so if you think about that again, what you're doing there. So those things represent the tread depth, so I can label that as tread depth. and you must put units there, okay? So that's in units of millimetres. Alright, and then my y-axis is the kilometres, okay? And my x-axis is kilometres, and that's thousands of kilometres, okay? And we need to go to 40, so I'm thinking obviously 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're going to have enough space there. So possibly, well, what I'm going to do, maybe 2, 4, 6, yeah, that might work, okay? So I'll make that 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40 there. Now, obviously, I'd like to stretch that out a bit, but you get the idea. And then it's just a matter of going to your table and going, well, if I do 14 kilometres, my tread depth is 5.7. Okay, so 5.7 when it's at 14 kilometres. So I know that's halfway there. 5.7 is about there somewhere, and I just put a cross. Okay, and then you go to the next one up there. So if I've got a tread depth of 17, it's going to be 6.5. So 17, that's 18, so it's halfway there. And remember, that is now going to be 7.5. So 17, halfway there, 7.5 has to be pretty well right on that point there. Okay, and then you keep going with your other values. So if I'm looking at 24 is 4. Right, so 24, we know it's 4, so across there. And 34 is 3. So 34 is 3, that's that point there. And 35, is it 35? 37 is 2.7. 35 is 2.7. Actually, yeah, so that's 34, 35 is 2.7. So it's about there somewhere. And then so on and so on. But you can see that, you're getting a line there. You can match it with what you're seeing on your graphics calculator when you graph that. Right, you get the idea, and that's stretched out a bit more because we didn't go all the way down to 0 with that. Let's have a go at answering some questions now that you need to do for that. So the sort of questions that you've got with this particular thing is draw the scatter plot and data. Calculate your R value and your R squared value. Right, so we've done that. We don't need to do it any more than on our calculator. So we can say there that our R value, if you remember what it was, our R value, Pearson's coefficient, that was equal to negative 0.95. And then our R squared value was equal to 0.90. That's close enough. Alright, so actually we could probably go to 4 decimal places with that. So if I just quit out of there, we'll go back to looking at my correlation. So remember what we had to do again, stat, come down to number 4, it's already in there. So just scroll the way down to calculate. Enter, and it tells us whatever. So you probably need to go 4 single figures there. So it's 0.9044 for that. So those values, that's great. You don't actually have to do anything apart from do the working out on your calculator. So, and if you have to do that calculation by hand, I can tell you it's very tedious to do. So you don't really want to be doing that if you don't need to. Alright, so we use our calculators a lot in this topic. Describe the association between tread depth and the number of kilometres travelled by a brand. Now this is the important bit, is to show that you understand the correlation. So what we'd say is there is a very strong, because it's a strong correlation, very strong correlation very strong negative, because it's going downwards, correlation between the tread depth and kilometres travelled. And you'd probably expect that anyway, wouldn't you? Right, because obviously if you drive a lot and you travel a long way, then you're going to wear your tyres out. Right, so I mean, some tyres are guaranteed for 30, 40, 60,000 kilometres. And so if you look after them, they certainly should last that long. Obviously, the more kilometres you do, the more the tyres are going to wear out. It makes sense. All right. So this whole topic is all about making connections between variables, showing if there's a connection between two variables. And again, as I said before, we use our calculator to do all of those things, which makes life a little bit easier for us. If we had to do this by hand, it would be very, very difficult to do. So good luck with those questions. Again, make sure you catch up with me if you need some help.